Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Common Law Court of Wales. Ladies and gentlemen, we seem to be having some technical difficulties. Can you hear me, Anne?
I can indeed, yes, Darren, thank you.
John, are you there?
Loud and clear, Darren.
Okay then. Well, John is a friend of Anne and very familiar with the case that we're going to be going into. So I'll just hand it over to John at the moment, and he can pick you up and tell you all how he met Anne and what circumstances and how they developed.
Yes, Anne came to me. We got the story of Anne that she received trespassers. She had trespassers on her land, cutting down the trees. So she went out and she tackled these people that were cutting down the trees. I mean, they wouldn't listen, but what I'll do is I'll pass over to Anne, and Anne will give you the story. She will tell you right from the start, Anne, if you would.
I will indeed, John. Thank you very much indeed. Hello, everybody. My name is Anne Richardson, and the story begins actually with my 93-year-old mother, who in fact has died not so very long ago. She was, as you can imagine, at 93, very frail, extremely elderly, and very deaf. The trees were theirs. Am I all right?
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I'm hearing a massive echo.
How's that now, Anne?
Okay, that's it. No, I've got massive echo again.
Right, I think it may be something...
Something happened. Oh, it's stopped now. You all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. I can hear you fine.
Okay, that's fine. I've got no echo now. I don't know what happened. Anyway, my mother proceeded to take, after a lot of work and a lot of frightening things, she proceeded to have to take legal action to prevent the people from not only trespassing on her garden and chopping her trees, but in the end helping themselves to the back end of her garden willy-nilly. They had their workmen there. They were building a house. They were wandering about the place, and they had absolutely no respect for her or her property whatsoever. Unfortunately for her, she didn't realise that in doing that, she was taking on rather more than you usually do in a small, in fact, it's a small boundary dispute, because the solicitor that they had employed had told him to go ahead and stop building. He'd used, I can't tell you the law now because it's about 10 or 15 years ago and I just can't remember. But the barrister said that he had used an out-of-date law in order to tell them to carry on and build when they should in fact have not done so. I can only quote what the barrister, a fellow called Chris Wilson, had told us at a mediation meeting was the case. Subsequent to that, they carried on and they built. They destroyed she had a stone wall in one part of the end of her garden. They destroyed that wall. It became dangerous. In fact, they turned it from being a little field wall into being a wall that was going to have to support large machinery, diggers, a caravan. They built up behind it such that, in fact, the wall bowed and became dangerous. And in fact, the land behind it would be dangerous as well because, of course, putting heavy machinery up and down on a piece of land and a wall like that is likely to make it unstable. Consequently, there was about 6 years, I think, if I remember rightly, six or 8 years of back and forth with solicitors and barristers. And my mother's insurance covered £25,000, British pounds that is, in legal fees, to have sort of solicitors and barristers. So the company that she had employed to represent her spent the £25,000 writing letters back and forth to these people in Harlech and their solicitors and their barristers. And then at the end of it, there was still no satisfaction and nothing was going on. Mum was still left with these people doing what they liked and getting increasingly upset and obviously increasingly worried. At that point, the solicitor informed my mother and me that it was being taken into the court and that my mother would have a court case that she would have to represent herself because the money had run out. So at 93, my mother was some 10 years after the initial people gypsying around her garden and building where they felt like and doing anything they felt and telling her the sort of go away, my mother found herself at 93, frail, unable to understand what was going on, having to represent herself in a court of British law, supposedly. I'm not sure about law here, and there's no justice in my opinion, but anyway, she was supposed to stand there and represent herself in this court case. Now, obviously, she couldn't really do that because A, she was very frail, and B, she was very, very deaf. And unfortunately for her, the courts here in North Wales, or that particular court in Carnarvon, have a loop system for deaf people, which otherwise they never turned it on. So she couldn't hear a thing. She hadn't got a clue what was going on, and I had to go with her as her carer, her support, and in fact the person who could speak for her, because there was no one else in the world who would do so. She had no legal representation, and she had no money to do anything with. Subsequently, there was a 3-day court trial. The only person who could speak in that court trial was me, simply because Mum couldn't cope. Nobody would represent her, and nobody would help me. I say that's not strictly true. There were some very nice people, actually, who tried in the background to help me help my mum. But I was forced, and I say forced, because I am being hit now with the fact that I was actually at the court. They're trying to say that I'm responsible for the entirety of my mother's court case and all monies owing under costs. Because, of course, since she had nobody but me, and I'm not a lawyer, I knew nothing about what to do, and I didn't really know everything that had happened because I wasn't there. They had done some terrible things. My mother had made a statement which was incorrect. And when I'd said to her, Mum, this isn't right, you would lose a whole case on this particular statement. Why did you sign it? And she said, in her very words, "So the solicitor told me to, so I did." You see, Mum believes that people in professions like we're supposed to be upright, honest, and told you to do the right thing. It's not something that would sell you down the river. Fortunately, in fact, the judge, when I told him I was, because the other side were trying to use that to win the case, and I said, well, no, I didn't do that one, and that was not done correctly. And in that particular instance, the judge very kindly said, we will leave that one out. But having said that, that's just a small instance of the many things that were not done right. So as you can appreciate, I'm on my own, representing my mum in a 3-day court trial with things that weren't right in the first place anyway. And consequently, my mother lost the case. Well, not entirely. She was told she had to pay 75% of the cost of the case. Now, I'm breaking this down very quickly. Yes.
If I can just bust in there.
Yes.
You know when they trespass on your land?
On her land, yes.
Yeah, well, did this come up in the court?
Oh, yes. They had, I had a picture of a caravan, their caravan, with the people at the back, sitting on top of my mother's wall, because the Joneses, the people responsible for all of this, denied hotly that they had ever trespassed, that none of their workmen had ever been on mother's property, and though they had never done anything to the wall, and certainly never put any machinery or vehicles on top of the wall. And I produced a photograph to the judge, gave it to the judge, and said, here you are, could you just have a look at this? And the judge said to Mr. Jones, is this your caravan? And Mr. Jones said yes, and it was, of course, sitting on top of the wall. So he proved himself to be a liar in the court. The trouble was, by then, that was towards the end of the case, because their barrister had taken, I think it was the whole of 2 days, talking, and I had about half an hour. I couldn't really sit. I had been my mother's carer at this court case. I had been my mother's witness at this court case, and the barrister had laid into me so badly that I was shaking all over, because I'm not really used to people being loud and rude, and he's quite a forceful sort of person. In fact, he's quite rude in my opinion, and I'm not accustomed to that. So I was having to do that, and I was having to conduct the court case itself as my mother's sort of inverted solicitor or representative, and in the place of a barrister as well. But I didn't know what I was doing. I was a complete and utter mental and physical wreck. So yes, is the answer. I've forgotten what you said.
Well, they were trespassing on your land, and so, the wrong was done at the moment they started trespassing on your land.
That's right, it was.
That wrong was done straight away. So, what happened with you, with the charging orders being put on your mother's home?
Oh, God.
You said it was, how much was it, you said?
Well, this is where it gets very difficult because the solicitors are demanding, I think it's £65,000, of which they want 49,000. The trouble is, that's for their own cost. The trouble is that the costs are incorrect, and there's supposed to be an appeal about it, which was the appeal has been allowed, but it as yet not been done. There was a charge put on my mother's property. Of course, she's dead, so it's now a charge upon her estate, on top of which the other judge had said just before she died, in fact, had said that these solicitors and their clients, these people, the Joneses over in Harlech, can have £20,000 up front. Listen, my mother was there that day. £20,000 was to be paid to them up front immediately. Now, my mother was on a basic state pension. She had no other income whatsoever, and nobody in that court asked her one single tiny word about what her income was. And I was so shocked when he said that I said, but hang on a minute, you can't do that. These are my very words. Hang on a minute, you can't do that. She hasn't got any money. She only has a state pension. And I know for a certainty that they did not have the right to do that, to make that order for £20,000 without prior request or prior knowledge of my mother's status in terms of income. In other words, they should have asked first whether she had the ability to even pay it, and they didn't. So the senior judge, when the beginning of the appeal, the request for appeal went in, was done by me, in fact, prior to my mother's executor taking over, the senior judge down in Cardiff wrote to ask whether my mother had been asked about her income status, and we responded with no, she hadn't. It was shock that brought that to light by me saying it, because Mum just sat there with her mouth open, and in fact, as a result of that, my mother fell over, broke her hip, and subsequently died in the hospital 4 days later. Mm-hmm. She probably wouldn't be dead otherwise.
Shocking news, isn't it? What do you think, Darren?
Well, I'm absolutely gobsmacked, John. I mean, to think that a woman in her 90s gets woken up by people cutting her trees down on her land, and then to be harassed by solicitors and all of the rest of it, and of course, and coming into it, and then all the worry that goes with that is absolutely shocking, and it depicts the state of play that we're in today, where these they're terrorists, and let's not beat about the bush. These people are financial terrorists, and they're asset stripping the vulnerable, and it's just sickening.
Well, it's worse than that. At the beginning, they were up because the house that they built is very high. My mother's little bungalow, and it's on the side of the mountain. And they were shining lights from there up above on their balcony into her windows at night. And then subsequently, this is quite a funny one actually, because not funny in terms of the happening, but afterwards they made a mistake. Because they thought one day, my mother rang me up actually before she died, crying her heart out, because they put one she thought was an eagle or a hawk up on the balcony, and she only liked to feed the little birds each day. That's the only pleasure she had left in her life. And unfortunately, she was crying because the birds wouldn't come to feed, because they'd put this stone or something, huge bird up on their balcony, and the birds were frightened to come and feed. And I was trying to reassure her that the birds would soon know it wasn't real, and they would come back. Well, subsequently, after Mother had died, they sent my mother's executor exactly the same thing as they'd done when they first went and chopped the trees. A letter requesting that they enter my mother's property and go and cut all the trees. And in it, they'd also put a picture of the trees, and there on the balcony was the very bird that they had terrorised my mother's little songbirds with. And I thought, that just shows the proof of what they're really like. They terrorized her, they abused her, they took away all her pleasure and all her freedom. And at the end of the day, she died, and I am left not only with nothing, because of what's happened in all of it financially, but also with them now with a charge on her property. When my sister died, they have tried to remove from me I who own my sister's house, I am in the process at the moment of them trying to remove from me the entirety of my sister's estate as well, leaving me horribly in debt because I looked after my sister while she was ill and dying, and I spent a huge amount of money, and I mean a huge amount of money, looking after mum and all her court things and my sister as well. So they've now got their greedy little hands on anything that might come out of my mother's property, and they are demanding through the courts the entirety of my sister's property, for which I have a buyer, but I can't sell because they have put a thing called unilateral order on my sister's property, and unfortunately that means that I can't do anything. So the money sits there, or it would if the man could pay it over, but he can't because they won't let him. And I'm ordered around as though I'm a nobody on earth. I have no rights whatsoever. I constantly have solicitors regularly every week ordering me to do things. They've broken me. When I say broken, I mean physically, emotionally, and financially. I have been broken so badly that I'm in the process at the moment, literally right now, of selling my own home in order to survive. I will have nowhere to go, and I will have very few means with which to go anywhere anyway. So that's 3 properties and the money from everything, and I'll have nothing.
Yeah, we can hear the upset in your voice, and
Well, I am, obviously.
of course, and it's understandably right. But it's shocking what these people have done to you. It sounds like they began by trespassing on your land. They were after your land. They were grabbing your land, and then they take you through the courts. I mean, that is just tyranny, isn't it? Like you said, Darren, it's terrorism, isn't it? Terrorizing people. I mean, Mark Banks is with it. Mark has also been there. What do you think about that, Mark? It's terrible, isn't it?
Well, it's absolutely in the way it's been treated, John. There's another thing that hasn't been mentioned tonight is the fact how that they actually have now brought the boundary in front of the tree line. So they've moved the boundary even further, yeah?
Yes, the courts have given the piece of land at the end of the garden to the Joneses now. The worst of it is that's the very piece of land that originally even the Joneses admitted they did not own.
They didn't own it, and the court actually gave away that land.
And the wall that they damaged. They've given them the wall that they damaged.
Yeah, but the actual tree line was planted somewhat years ago, yeah, and
30 odd years ago.
The tree line was planted, and the boundary now is actually in front of the tree line, where it was originally behind it. So there's the amount of land that they've actually gained now since is substantially more than what you actually went to court under.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And the amount of land that they've gained is worth about £40,000 or £50,000, apparently, according to one of the agents.
As well, so it's a nice unit from the line, nice race over the ground and everything. And it's just that was just something I wanted to bring aware. But,
that's what it's all about, Mark.
The original dispute was a lot less of the actual land they've actually ended up taking from your mother's property, isn't it?
That's right.
You look at the deeds and look at the land registry. The land registry, like registered on the land registry. You can actually see, can't you, the way that the boundary has been bent and has been moved.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's now in front of that as well, isn't it? What's actually there on the land registry, it's actually somewhat 10, 15 foot in front of that, so they're taking it now to be in front of the tree line, haven't they, yeah?
They have indeed, yes.
Yeah.
So
that was just something I wanted to sort of make you aware there, that even from what they decided from in the court, they've still taken more as well. Yeah.
And they're still demanding access, and well, they're probably going there because I'm not over in Harlech now, but they're being demanding access, full access to the property in order to chop down the trees, which is how the whole thing started.
And didn't they get and yours on the whole property that you couldn't grow this.
Oh, that's what first of all, when they had the mediation some years ago now, about 8 years ago or something, they asked for a covenant to keep the trees to a certain height, and Mum didn't mind that. She just didn't want the trees destroyed because they were a line of quite nice beech trees.
Yeah.
But keeping them at a certain height was quite reasonable, you know. Unfortunately, they weren't happy with that. They changed it, and they decided, and they offered £7,500. And this is how you can see they knew they weren't dead. They offered £7,500 for that covenant to keep the trees at a reasonable height. Unfortunately, they then changed their minds and decided they wanted a covenant on all the plants in the garden to keep everything in the garden under a certain height. I mean, that was absolutely ridiculous.
That includes the front garden as well.
Front and everything, yes. Not only front, it included the front, but we're talking hills. Harlequins on the mountainside.
Yeah, it's on a slope anyway, so the back of the garden is naturally higher than the front anyway. So
absolutely.
They got the covenant to cover the back garden and the front garden, yeah?
Yep, they wanted it for the whole lot.
And then they were all friends with the solicitors that was involved as well.
Oh, yes, they were all local and friends with each other. My mother's neighbour worked for the solicitor, and she was in my mother's house every day. The next door neighbour to my mother's a friend of the solicitors. He also had been a solicitor, and they were all good friends with each other. The Joneses, they all knew each other, so they all went to school together. My mother hadn't got a hope in hell.
They was all in the cliff, wasn't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And that just shows the corruption and, you know, the way it comes all the way to the top, and they all stick together and they look out for themselves, don't they, and for each other, don't they? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, every town seems to have a local firm, and I'm just reading a book at the moment by a fellow by the name of David Morgan, who was describing the same thing. This is going on in everywhere at the moment. I mean, there simply seems to be a clique in each town and village. They're going around like untouchables, and they're using the system to facilitate the terrorism and the fraud. And I mean, these people, obviously they're motivated by greed, but to put your family through and yourself through that, and it's just disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes way beyond just that, because of course what's going on now with my own life as a result of all of that, and the fact that my sister died, and the treatment that my sister received at the hands of people that during her illness and after have been so bad that I'm a complete wreck. On a personal basis, I am a wreck. I have never known such evil in all my life. I had great difficulty coping at all, and as I said, I'm going to be effectively homeless in a matter of weeks. My house is sold as long as the fellow pays for it. That's my next worry. I don't know. The solicitor who's supposed to be doing my sale also is supposed to be doing my sister's, only now I find that she's the ex-partner or wife of the very solicitors that are acting against me. So it's a complete nightmare.
These people don't care, and you know what I mean, Darren, Mark? They don't. They feed off your fear, and they don't give a damn about you. They'll put you in the streets.
And with regard to Anne's case herself, they fed off her mother's vulnerability in the first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And her mother ended up losing her life because, you know, ultimately through the stress that she got put through and everything. Okay, so maybe some natural causes as well, but ultimately the stress that her mother went through, she lost her life. Her sister lost her life as well. And now they're putting Anne into a position where they're getting her. Anne's worried sick.
Oh, yeah.
She's very stressed. She doesn't know where to turn with it now.
You see, what's happening here, you know, we've had a chat before about it, guys. You know, the court system, you had no legal representation, so it took big advantage of you by the sound.
Oh, yes. You know, I think I told you, didn't I, John, that barrister, because the judge asked if my mother was supposed to receive some various things because she didn't entirely lose the case. And when the judge asked for the £10 that Mum was supposed to have been paid by
I was going to bring that up now.
Yeah, so upset, that barrister stood there when I said no, I quietly said no, it hadn't been paid. And he stood there and he threw a £10 note across the table at me and said, there it is now.
And that was in front of the judge?
In the court, in front of the judge.
In front of the judge. That is disgusting, and it's not the way to act inside of a court, is it? If it was a court, because they're using these courts now to profit off people, aren't they?
Well, I just stood there. I actually said to the usher afterwards, I refused to take the money. I said it was dirty money. I said I didn't realise that people could behave so badly in the court. I thought it was supposed to be somewhere where, at least people were trying to be just and at least you were supposed to be decent and behave properly. But if barristers can go around behaving like morons, then, what's the point?
No, to flippantly throw a tenner across, especially being aware of the circumstances. These people are psychopaths, and I can tell you, Anne, that we'll be trying to help you the best we can. I mean, there's a lot of people out there with a hell of a lot of knowledge in this field. I mean, there's been recent cases lately, Tom Crawford, other things like that, where there are mechanisms in which to uncover the fraud and deception, and that's what it is, basically.
Sorry, Darren, I'm going to interrupt there, because what you haven't been told is that my sister, the very sister whose estate they're trying to steal, and I say steal because that's exactly what they're doing from me, my sister was also, unfortunately, being used and abused, in my opinion, by the very solicitors that are acting against my mother and are acting against me. So my sister had been working for them and using them as a solicitor for a great number of years until she realised that things weren't all right. And that's which,
Sorry to just interrupt there. I'm very sorry now. Your sister had a will, didn't she?
That's the one that's really worrying. Really worrying.
Had a will.
As far as the whole family knew.
Company that changed their name, didn't.
Yep.
And your sister could only remember
the name Robert.
Now, these Brindle, which is the solicitors that are acting against you, well, against your mother's estate and against you, was once called Brindle and Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brindle.
I'm sorry to put it in there, but I just thought that was just an important thing that just needs to be brought up there. I'm very sorry to butt in, but...
No, you're right. Yeah. Personally, I think it's crucial. People don't
because the will has disappeared, hasn't it?
Yeah.
There's no traces of the will and stuff.
No proof of the will. All we know is my mother knew there was a will. My sister thought there was a will because she said she had it done. She told me there was a will. My whole family thought there was a will.
I'm very, very, very sorry just to butt in like that, but it's just something that struck me there and then. I'm sorry, Sorry, everyone.
No, it's really important. And not only did we all believe there was a will, but when Judy died, Judy being my sister, I was ringing everywhere to find out this will. And it was subsequent to that, knowing the Roberts. I was ringing every firm of Roberts, only to find in more recent times that amongst all the paperwork, that Breeze Gwyndaff, in fact, had been called Gwyndaff, Williams and Roberts. But when they were rung up, they said no, they had no knowledge of any will. Now, the thing is, the only people who could benefit from there being no will is, in fact, them, because they are the ones that are taking me to court to try and take the estate off me because they say I have no right to it.
Exactly, and that's why I brought the point up, Anne. So,
what's that firm called again, Anne, please?
It's now called Breeze, as in the wind blowing, Breeze Gwyndaff.
Right.
GWYNDAF for Freddie.
I see. In relation to the statement that Mum had given the court, which you said was damning, was the same firm involved in that?
No.
It was a different firm, but from the same firm.
No, what happened was the firm representing my mother, the solicitor there, had sent her own witness statement for her court case, and he's incorrectly typed it out, or the secretary had, so that the way it read was such that she was agreeing she was in the wrong. And she didn't realise, she just signed it because he told her to sign it, you see. She was signing away the truth, and it wasn't the truth, you see.
Yes,
so that was just an accident, I think.
Well, yes, I mean, a woman of 90 plus years feeling pressured and trusting the system, you know, let's face it, a vulnerable lady has been taken advantage of you, to say the least.
100%.
So well, now they've done it to my sister by trying to see, Breeze Gwyndath, as these awful solicitors and their clients, knew jolly well the entirety of my sister's sort of life, because he had known, Bree Williams, the solicitor in Breeze Gwyndath, had known my sister for over 30 years, well, very well. The great concern is that they have used inside knowledge in order to do what they're doing, because they have, as you can appreciate, they've taken everything of my mother's to help themselves and their friends, and now my sisters they're trying to take, and they have tried to take my sisters by using the inside knowledge not only of her life, but of all her finances and her home and everything else. You see, they knew that he'd done the conveyancing for her house. As far as I'm aware, he organised the mortgage with Barclays Bank, which was done wrongly, and in fact, the Ombudsman found in favour of my sister, and she was paid because the bank that it had been organised, the mortgage had been organised with, owed her for having wrongly done the whole thing. Now, I mean, the only person who could have done that is the very solicitors again, as far as I'm aware. It's very difficult, you see. So my sister was actually paid via the Ombudsman, by the bank, backed by the bank, for their wrongdoing. There's a lot of that. I don't know if anybody knows it, but Port Mallet was well known for cheating people, really, is what it boils down to. It's very well known for it. Was big in the press some years ago. So anyway, my sister, yeah.
Just to recap for the people that are listening, how much money is involved here from these solicitors? I believe you've got so much on your mother's house, and they've slapped one on your sister's house as well. So, just for and they've taken your land. They took your land. Now we're talking thousands of pounds that are after you. You can just recap on that for them to hear.
Okay. On my mother's, it will be the residue of her estate after her own executor's solicitors being paid, I presume. And I don't know the amount, but I'm guessing that it's somewhere around 25,000 on hers, approximately. I actually don't know. I thought it was about 32, but apparently I'm wrong. I don't know. But on my sister's, the price that the man was paying for the house was 45,000, because my sister owned her house outright, but it's in a frightful state. And that's another story, and a horrible one. But then on top of that, these miserable pigs in Port Mallet, the solicitors, are trying to take everything that was her estate. So they're demanding not only every penny that was left, which in actual fact she'd given to me long before she died, and just said, go and clear my bank account. Well, I didn't, did I? But I didn't know when I was told I had to put that in the probate. I said I shouldn't have to, it was already mine, but I got told I had to. So they want all of that. Well, of course, I haven't got it now. And on top of that, they want me to pay their costs. I'm supposed to be paying my mother's solicitor's costs. And I've got to find a way of representing myself, or paying him to do so, my mother's solicitor, this is, in the court case against me for apparently committing the fraud of inheriting my sister's estate, for which I was given probate. And, which means that any money I might have had from my own property, they might have tried to take. I've sold my property, but I owe so much now anyway that there is nothing for anybody to take, because they've taken everything there was. So all told, you're talking approximately 40, 50, 60, 70, probably about 80 or 90,000 pounds.
All based,
asset stripping everything down, eh?
Yeah. All based on an initial fraud.
Yeah.
The foundation of this crime.
That's the land it was, yeah?
Yeah.
That's the land.
Oh, I forgot that. It's 80 or 1,000 pounds plus the property, of course.
Yeah.
Indeed. So
they want the money and the property.
Yeah.
That's the reason I'm selling. Well, not the reason I'm selling I've got to pay my debts. And now that they've stripped me of everything that my sister left me, and telling me I have to pay everything else as well, and ordering me about to drive around the countryside and empty houses and pay for removals and everything else. I'm broke. And I owe so much money, I'm having to sell my house to pay my own debts.
Unbelievable.
Well,
I wasn't in debt before, I have to say, before my mother's court case and my sister died, I wasn't in debt.
Because as well, and these three young girls, that are putting a stop, they're making you have a survey going in sister's house,
Yes, they said that the amount that I've accepted from the purchaser on my sister's house is not all right, that I'm underselling it deliberately.
It's too low. They said that you've got an agreement with someone or something.
That's right. They said I'm in collusion with the purchaser, who I don't even know, in order to try and do a dirty deal sort of thing. Well, all I'm in fact, is debt.
Well, this legal firm, if you could just give the name again, and whereabouts are they? Where are they based at?
Yes, the name is Breeze Gwyndas, and the fellow who pretends he's retired, but who did all of this originally and still is in the background doing it, is Corporal Williams, although his colleague is doing it now, and they are in the High Street in Portmaddock in Gwynedd.
Terrible.
Well, indeed. I mean, these people have to be named and brought and dragged into the light of truth. I realise, Anne, that it must have been very lonely at times, but obviously, alongside all this fraud and deception and, just this horrific things you've had to put up with, you've had two deaths in the family, your mother and your sister.
Nobody cared. Nobody cared. They were actually taking me to court. They were taking my mother to court the day my sister's funeral was.
No.
They've been trying to take me to court throughout the funerals, and running back and forth to hospital. And no matter how much trauma there has been, those are the days that they have sent threatening letters or court letters. Or my sister was in the middle of dying and having a funeral when they were sending me court things and informing me I had to start doing what they said within 7 days, or else. I had enough trouble trying to keep myself from breaking down every 2 seconds.
Here we are. So we got these big hard con men, and they're threatening ladies at the most vulnerable point in their life. And I mean, this is going to rile people up, and it's certainly going to get a lot of attention. And I mean, I know you're a very strong and brave lady, and I believe that there is help out there. In fact, I know there is. So if you just...
You need to get this help if you can, Darren.
We will.
She really does need it.
Well, yes, indeed. I mean, we've recently been in touch with Griff and a few of the boys from Cardiff who are running the Daily Wales online, and we hope to be working very closely with them. And I can see that somebody, this is a story that can go on the newspaper, and we'll try and get as much coverage and bring as much awareness to this horrendous crime that we can possibly do. They can't get away with this. Through lack of awareness, they would have been able to get away with it. But no, this stops. We don't have our elderly women treated like this. We don't have our mothers. We don't allow our mothers.
That's brought me to the sort of after Anne's story. She posted up in practical lawful defence about what was going on, and I happened to realise that she was local to Anglesey, and I've just been setting up an awareness group up in Anglesey, trying raise awareness, and I realised that this is an old lady that's getting treated terribly.
Listen, they've murdered the mother in my eyes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They've done the system,
and they want to do the same plan.
And this is.
Oh yes, they want.
They'll have to sue the properties then.
Yeah, that's exactly. They want me dead because that way, if I'm dead or if I completely crash, they can then say anything they like and nobody can fight it because what are the children in the family are going to do? They won't be able to stand up to all of this anyway, and frankly, I wouldn't want them to, which is why I'm trying to hold on until. I'm trying not to die until such time as it's sorted because of the family. I know that sounds awful, but it's true.
People are not aware that these things are going on, you know what I mean? And this is what's good about this radio broadcast now. We can bring you loads of shows, people, and we're gonna reveal everything. And whatever's going out there, we're gonna show you. We're gonna show you the evidence, because this is totally not acceptable at all. You know what I mean, guys?
It's not acceptable, is it? We've got to put, in whatever way we can, we have to put a stop to this, don't we?
It's got to be done, isn't it? People have to wake up to this, because it's happening all over the country. It's happening all over the world. But
it could be your mum, or it could be just some to most people that are listening, this is just some old ladies that on an island in Anglesey. But it could be their mum. Nobody will be their mum. Well, everyone's only 3 mortgage payments away from being made homeless, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a similar thing happening, Mark. There's a similar thing happening, Darren. And guys, listening, there's a similar thing happening again on Anglesey with a skip hire guy.
Yeah.
You know, and it's disgusting. They fined him almost £500,000. This guy's looking. This guy is looking for 400,000. This guy is looking now at losing his home, his land, his business, his passion. They're going to strip everything off him. They're going to sell everything.
John, what did he do for it? All he did was store the waste wrong, yeah?
All he did was store the waste in the skip. He didn't tip it on. He didn't
do what these corporations are doing that we were able to stop, yeah, John?
No. Yeah, we've got evidence now. We've shown the pictures. We've let it out.
Evidence of corporations dumping all sorts over this island, yeah?
And it's not acceptable. So people need to wake up that these corporations are being looked after, and that the little person, the little businesses are being smashed.
Yeah.
They've been taken to court. They've been even the small shop. Even the finish.
Sorry,
even the small shop in the street are closing, and everybody's got to pay for parking tickets. This is all designed to stop people going to the small shops in the shopping centres, and then you get your large car parks in Tesco's and Morrison's, and this is where they're sending you. They're all sending you to the large corporations. Never mind all the little guys in the shops trying to make ends meet. It doesn't matter about that. They're taking us down. It's the truth.
Absolutely is the truth. And I mean, as I said earlier, I'm reading a book, David Morgan. They tried the same with him. When I get through it, it's quite a read. If you are listening, David, I'm not far away from finishing it. We'll be having him on to describe this in more depth, because he's done some wonderful uncovering. But just to go back to Anne and echo the feelings. I'm absolutely camping. I'm filming that this has happened, and I know that most of the listeners would be primarily used to want to do something about it, and we are going to do something about it. We can't allow this to happen. I mean, we've got a lady here who's been fighting on her own for too long.
Do you know, Darren, when I told I've got 2 bank accounts, and when I told my one bank, which now I'm in debt to because of all of this, which I wasn't at, I was about to be because of it, and I told him what was going on, and the man there, and he said this is their main central, it's nationwide in fact, their main central sort of system. The man I spoke to when I was trying to tell him why I was about to go under, literally, financially, he said what the story I had told him made him so damned angry he wanted to do something. So you can see, people do realise that it is wrong. It's just totally immoral. It is wrong. And frankly, the worst of it is the way they've done it with my sister's things, knowing her as they do on a personal basis, or did for so long, and what has been done to my sister. What I haven't told you is that I spent a huge amount of time and money fighting for my sister to have the right to die at home. So that while all my mother's things were going on and I'm having to do those, I was also 24/7 looking after my sister, having fought like hell for her to have the right to be at home to die. I can't tell you the stress I've been through. It's been, and still is, absolutely unbelievable. It still is. I'm getting eyesight flashes from, I had migraines simply because I'm so worried about what I'm going to do about living in Mummy and things like it now, even having sold my house, you see. Just things are not okay, I don't know. And then they're telling me I have to go and do this survey and ordering me that I have to do it at the convenience of the surveyor, which is all very well, but A, I don't have the time. I'm doing my best to meet that commitment, but, you know, the other one is I can't afford to. Driving over there all the time at £20 a go, I've only got a pension. And I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times, emptying 2 houses because they've all ordered me around telling me I have to. And at the same time, they're still ordering their own. And when I've been to solicitors to try and get help, I've been told I have to pay them up front. They won't help me unless I pay up front.
That's
even worse.
This is how the system is geared up. It's geared up to drain you of everything. Your money, your energy, your spirit. And they, like you said earlier on, they want you to break. It's all geared up to milk as much, to drain as much profit off you. And it's plain, it's laid bare for everyone to see. And it simply can't go on. Guys?
Yes, of course. It can't go on, Darren. It can't go on. People have to wake up to it, you know.
So it's got to the point where the doctor's telling me I'm suffering from depression. And
but he'll just be trying to get some pills into you, aren't they? They'd be trying to get...
Absolutely. I've been offered all sorts of silly things like sleeping pills and tranquilizers and whatever it is, antidepressants or something. Yeah, which, of course, my stomach is in such a terrible state, all they do is make me vomit, so I can't take things like that anyway.
They like giving out sleeping tablets, don't they? So they can put
absolutely. Yeah. Get rid of you quick.
No, to get rid of you so that you can sleep all day and that you can't fight back.
Well, it's not only that, guys. I mean, it's a bit more sinister. We find ourselves in our culture here in the West where we just hide our elderly away. They're in a home of some type, and they're given a concoction of drugs. It is basically a chemical lobotomy. Now, if you take other cultures, Native American Indians or whatever, any other culture, you find the elderly are the most wisest in the village. They're looked up to, they're wise, they're honoured. And if there's any trouble, where do you go? Where the knowledge is. You go to the elders. You seek out their wisdom. Where this sinister system has turned, what it's turned into, it is absolutely disgusting. We just ship our elderlies off to these homes, in our homes at all, by the way. We've seen the way they treat them in there, but it's just to profit with the pharmaceutical companies who like I say, are giving these drugs, a huge amount of drugs, and they're basically, people have to sell their houses in order to pay for these so-called care homes. Yeah. In fact, these private firms is another form of the asset stripping technique, is that they'll seek out a vulnerable elderly person who may be living on their own, and then a coordinated attack between they use the social services to go around, and they would say that the gentleman or the lady may be a bit vulnerable, and then the doctor will sign, yes,
that's it. That's what they
she'll be vulnerable.
They dragged my sister from her house to take her to hospital. They dragged her from the house against her will. They removed, oh God, it was so stressful. I may not be able to tell you all of this without breaking down totally. They removed every form of ability for her to cook or be warm or have any hot water or anything from her, or fridge or anything from her home, so that they could get away with doing it. They had her sign something, as she said afterwards in the hospital when I got there. I had to sign something. They got me to do it, but I don't know what it was. I was too ill to know what they were doing to me. That's how bad it was. Fortunately, I got there in time to get her home so that she could live the last bit. She wanted to be at home with Sophie, her cat, while she died. She knew she was dying. She had terrible cancer. It was frighteningly bad.
No remorse for them again.
No, God, no, it was a dead man.
Yeah, but that's the modus operandi of these psychopaths. This is the system they've set up. Oh, it is, Mark, and that's what they do. They drag you out of your house because the social services, in coordination with some crooked doctor, has signed and said he's vulnerable, she's vulnerable, he needs to go in there. And yeah, exactly like they take our children, they take our elderly. And it's all for profit, it's motivated by greed, and it's to feed this big pharmaceutical companies, and they sell the house to do it.
Yes. So in fairness to I don't know the doctor that was concerned in that, but in fairness, I think that he wasn't entirely aware originally of how things went. I do know that in the notes I read afterwards that he had put that she had not wanted it, she had refused to go to hospital. And the social worker, in fairness again, the social worker was highly instrumental in helping me get her home. So there are times when people do the right thing, but the social worker had known my sister since the social worker was a little girl because Judy had taught her to ride. So it was fortunate that that was the case, and fortunate that I was able to say to my sister, it was awful. You are being lied to by people who say they're your friends. They are telling you that they're fixing your house, when in actual fact, they just told me I'm not to. I'm to wait until you're dead before I do anything. And I told Judy, I've never lied to you, and I'm not starting now. I know you want to go home. The only way you're going to is if you and I work at it. You've got to eat, and you've got to make like you're going to be okay to be at home, and I will get the work done on the house so that you can get there. And if I hadn't done that, they'd never have let us go home.
Stunning. Absolutely stunning. What have we come to?
Yeah, exactly.
What does this country come to?
What are we doing that we allow this to happen? Poor old people, my sister's my younger sister, but even so, poor old people and mum on their own with nobody to turn to. And these dreadful, dreadful people pretending that they're helping them by stealing from them, by destroying them, by killing them even. And they're getting away with it because they're doing it in inverted commas within the law.
But this is the problem as well, isn't it? Always the vulnerable that are attacking.
Yep.
It's never the strong or people in a position where they have a position to fight back. It's always people who are in no position to fight back. And this is where it has to stop. It isn't on.
It's predatory, Mark. The predators.
That they are predators, that they really are. They're just purely playing on the vulnerable. The sick, the ill, the elderly, the frail, people who don't know their rights and will not stand up, or who don't know how to stand up for themselves. It's just disgusting the way it's gone.
The thing I find the hardest of all of this is that I have lived my life bringing up 2 children and have been quite strong, as you can imagine. I got a degree and I taught, and generally speaking, survived bringing up 2 kids reasonably adequately. Well, it's interesting that I've never been treated particularly badly until such time as I got old, and as I got older. So I find that people don't treat you the same. They treat you like you're dim-witted, that you're some stupid old fogey that doesn't have the right to be standing on the earth, and they do what they like. They couldn't care less.
Yeah, it's time for a change, and I believe things are changing. And I mean, once people hear this, it cannot be ignored. I mean, you can try and ignore it, but it's impossible. Let's just go over things slowly. Think about what Anna's said this evening. Just think about what she's had to go through after working, as she just quite rightly said, bringing up 2 children. You've heard of the caring she's done for her mother and what she's done for her sister to get her home. What are you going to do about it?
Do you know what else I've done all those years? Oh gosh, I have worked with children in trouble, and children who are disabled in various ways, and the elderly when they need help. I have done work with most of the members of society who have needed help and fought on their behalf. It's very, very hard to find it when push came to shove. None of my family was given that right at any time. Very, very hard.
So there you have it. You all think you're working and living in the system, when everything's going to be tickety-boo. It's anything but. Everyone is getting robbed. We're living in a debt slave system where no matter how hard you work all your life, when you get to the end of it, it's going to stab you in the back.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do about it? What listeners out there now, what are we going to do about it? We've got to get together. We've got to get awareness out there. We've got to come together and put a stop to this. It needs to stop, and it needs to stop now.
Yeah, of course it does. And what you know what? Let me just say this. There's people out there and they're thinking, well, this will never happen to me. Well, have you ever seen the Arrival line wagons waiting there just to get people doing 36 miles an hour? Now they've got you. Now they've got you. You're in debt to them. And this is what it's all about. Getting you into debt and getting access off you. That's what it's all about.
I can tell you a good one on that one, John. I'm coming back from Port Maddox towards Anglesey when my sister is dying. I'm going a little bit over the speed limit down the hill at Pennygroyce, which is a very long hill, and you do tend to kind of go a bit faster because it's a long hill. And I'm in a rush because I've got to get to a place called Buglery, where they have things for the disabled, handicapped, and seriously ill, like pads and all sorts of, things that you need if somebody's terribly sick. So I'm rushing to get there because my sister is lying dying and I need these things and I have to get back to Port Maddox. So there I am when all of a sudden a car comes pulling in and pulls me to the side, and it's one of those plain police cars. And they were going to do me for speeding. And I explained to this moron of a policeman that my sister was actually lying dying and I was in desperate need and I had to get to Beaubourg and get back again, desperately urgently, because I didn't want her to die there on her own, and I needed these things for her because she had all these cancerous weeping, she was sores and everything. And this policeman not only gave me a speeding fine, but then I said, I know you can. I was really, really polite and nice. I know that you can use your discretion. I'm asking you, please, to help me on this occasion, thinking they might even give me an escort like the idiot I am. And he said, I will. I'm going to the back of your car. I see your car isn't right. I'm doing you for that as well.
My goodness.
Yep.
Well,
I got a speeding fine and a fine for having my car not right.
This is the kind of people they're employing as police these days. I mean, as shocking as it is, I mean, these people are, I don't know. I mean, it must be like the test they do, where they electrocute somebody for getting the answer wrong. When somebody with a white coat, I forget the experiment now, it's a psychological experiment. But these people are no empathy, no feeling, no care for the fellow human.
No.
Absolutely insane.
Well, you can imagine I've got all this going on with my mother. I'm trying to look after my dying sister. The police are doing me for, I think it was £100 fine I have to pay. You can imagine all this. And Muggy was here. Well, I was just a walking wreck, I'm telling you. And I'm not my excuse me, I didn't mean to cough. I should have muted it. I forgot.
Only worry, Anne, you're a very brave lady, and I mean, I got so much admiration. I just wish I could give you a hug just now. I mean, I'm sure everyone else is the same. I mean, horrific what you've had to go through.
Common sense just goes out the window with them, yeah.
Oh, they've got no common sense. They
don't use common sense at all, do they? No.
Well, no,
I have to admit, the one thing I'm having at the moment, feeling terribly, is I'm crying at night. I'm not sleeping. I'm getting about 3 hours sleep a night. I'm not much use for all the things I need to be doing. And I am really, really desperate for people, for support. I'm feeling so very alone. I shouldn't do, because there are so many good people in our country. I'm feeling terribly alone because I've gone so long terribly alone trying to sort all these things or do something about them, but I'm worn out. I absolutely don't have one resource of any type left in me. That's really why I turn to everybody for help in the first place, because I have nothing left, nothing at all.
You're on Anglesey, and you're not alone. Don't be worried about that. You're not alone.
She has full support from within our group, doesn't she, John? Yeah.
And for the field now with that.
Of course, but I just, as regards to that field alone, there's plenty of us on Anglesey that can be with her in a matter of minutes, isn't that?
Yeah. Oh, yes. No, I realise. That's what I said about I know there are good people. But you have no idea how even though you are so nice, all of you, you have no idea how very, once you've gone this far down, and when I say down, I mean literally down, so low, that you really feel there is nothing and nobody.
Well, listen to this now. It's just come to me, and it's going to be done. And all listeners out there, we need to get working on this. There's a thing going about now. It's called crowdfunding. You put something up, and people listen to it, and they put a few bob in to help things get going. Now, I suggest with Anne's blessing, of course, that along with this broadcast, we should set up a specific fund for Anne who would like to help to get in and to do what they can. Not only that, let's have somebody round around a cup of tea and check it in on Anne, giving her support as we go into the championship rounds, as I like to call them, because Anne has bitten down on the gum shield and has been fighting hard. And
excellent idea, I think that is, Darren. I'd just like to say that we do see Anne every couple of weeks. We do check in and see on her, but the idea of getting some sort of fund set up for her, I think, is a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who listens to this broadcast this evening, Mark, will be compelled to help, I'm quite sure. I mean, the one thing with truth is, you don't have to defend it, it'll defend itself. People just need to hear it. I mean, I don't know how these platforms work, right, but they seem to be a tool for the people. Let's give it a go. And
what's it called again, Darren?
I haven't got a clue, John. I've never been at it, but I know that there's been a few. It's crowd source funding or something it's called. I honestly don't know. The idea came to me as we were talking, and I just had to share it. But I have no idea how we're going to start it, but we're going to get on it.
Yeah. Well, Dan, we're thinking of starting the page for this guy with the skits as well, because it's not fair what's happening to Anne.
No, it's not.
And it's not fair what's happening to this guy with the skits. And these are the only two people that we know of, you know what I mean? And the papers, they get it out there to the people to read. And the most important thing is they keep behind and put it under the carpet.
It's when you think all he's done was put his skips on his own property. You know, not emptied them anywhere. He just had them on his property. I don't understand why they went for him in such a terrible way anyway, myself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like telling me you can't put anything in the bins.
Well, we won't be able to do nothing if we don't stand up for ourselves.
No, I know. It's really, really bad. You know, the other thing that I found out, and I'm really even more worried now, because apparently, with all the worries and all the financial things that now have happened to me that hadn't before, I'm going to have, of course, my credit referencing is now absolutely null and void. So, you know, I won't be able to get a credit reference, and as a result of that, which, of course, the Jews and the very people and their solicitors can get, because the judge who told my mother that he was going to not make an order against them to that extent, because he was concerned that they might have their credit reference ruined. Well, I now don't have one, my mother didn't, and as a result of it, I can't get a reference for renting a property.
Yeah.
So you see, I'm really, really worried now, because no matter what I do, I can't seem to come with my head up. It's kind of, oh God, what happens next?
We've just turned the corner. I can feel it, Anne. We can get this crowdsource thing going. I'm sure we'll be okay. So yeah, don't worry yourself for that. It may have been all uphill up until now, but you're just going over the top. It's downhill from here. People are now going to be fully aware of the circumstances, and there's no way people are going to let this slide. It's impossible.
Yeah. I think there was the sort of momentum that's built recently with the Tom Crawford case, that this could be the next sort of thing that you know, to go forward with, sort of, yeah.
Tremendous in that the awareness is brought, but we can, you know, that awareness is there for everyone now, and you know, he's broken down barriers and got the word out to so many people that yeah, we can certainly gain help from the people who was being involved in that. I mean, anyone who listens to this evening's broadcast is going to help. How could you not? If anyone who has a heart, I mean, you cannot listen to Anne's story without being deeply touched by it and compelled to do something as simple as that.
Yeah, definitely. You couldn't call yourself a human being otherwise, could you? No.
But what? Oh, no way. What? Anne having 3 hours sleep a night, worried sick, with no pennies, and looking at who's in her home, just because of some greedy psychopath firm made a land grab.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Fraud,
deception, deceit.
Oh. The list goes on, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
When you put the bones out of these case, I've been heavily involved in Anne's story since it first came to sort of life. And when you pick the bones out of it, there's that much that is so wrong about it. It's just untrue.
Well, sorry, I was going to say most of it, even though I'm going to end up in trouble because I have to pay my mother to well, I know I do now as well, on top of everything else. Having said that, I know that he is aware of the fact that, yeah, things are not all right. Things weren't all right. He's aware of that because he has written to Breeze Window demanding all the things that they have hidden of my sister's files, because even he is realising there's something funny going on. Oh, and I might add that they're taking him to court because he has said that my mother's estate does not entitle anybody to my sister's estate. He says I quite rightfully should have kept it. So they're taking him to court as well.
Who's that done?
My mother's executor.
Oh, did you have a solicitor, did you?
Yeah, my mother's appointed a solicitor in Birkenhead as her executor, and they're also taking him to court with me because they say that he should not have let my sister's estate stay with me, but that he should have demanded it in order to pay the debt to them to my mother's estate. And he has said, no, I'm quite entitled to have had my sister's estate in the first place, which I had done so, because my sister had given it to me.
So one solicitor who's legally qualified says you're entitled to your mother and your sister's home, and the other one says you're not.
No, the other one says that everything should go to them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
and that's right.
Yeah. So you're not getting that, and one says you are. So, you know, which one of them is right? You know what I mean? Well, they're both legally qualified. You know,
worse than that, John.
I mean, they both have the same.
Yes, but while they're fighting, I have to pay for it. The whole point is that while they're all doing this, I shall have to pay for my mother's solicitor, because he's going to have to represent me, because I've got no representation.
So these are equivalent. These are equivalent. Yes, you can. No, you can't. And
that's right.
And you're in the middle paying.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. I've been, so far, all the way along, I have to pay for everything. And at the end of the day, when it's all finished, I'll still have to pay for everything.
It sounds a bit iffy, doesn't it? You know,
isn't it, Joe?
You've heard the saying, we're all in this together.
Yep.
Well, there you go. We're all in this together, and that doesn't mean much, does it?
And at the end of it, 3 properties, and all the money, and my family and I will have nothing. Well, my grandchildren and I have nothing. Well, I have nothing now. It's already too late. And originally I'd done a will. I got it all organised. I'd done a will, and I was going to set my my granddaughters up in only a tiny little business like aromatherapy or something like that. I thought it'd be nice for them. I had it all organised. And now I find that I'm not even going to be able to survive, let alone set anybody up in anything. And the girls have been wonderful. They're saying, oh, don't worry, we didn't really want anything. We're fine, we'll work, you know. But it was not the point. I worked hard. And Judy, my sister, worked her bloody gut with, excuse my language here. She'd worked her absolute both fingers to the bone. She had. So,
I can
If you would only seen what they did to her.
I'm fuming, Anne. I'm fuming. I'm sure you are as well, Darren.
Indeed, John. Are you okay, Anne?
Yeah, I'm okay. It's just every time I think of Mum and my sisters, what's been done to the war, you know?
Yes.
I'm all right. It's just so upsetting, really.
Take your time. Take your time. Anne, didn't you have to nip out for 10 minutes?
Yeah, I've got, I'm sure everybody will find this funny, but I've got two little hens in the room sitting at the back door waiting for their tea.
Well,
But I'm going to just nip off and give them their tea and then come back.
yeah, there we are. You'll take a little break, Anne, and do that, and
Okay.
me, Mark, and John will have a little nap over here and just digest what we've just gone through. But take your time, man, and we'll see you in 10 minutes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I know this sounds silly, but you know, I've got my mother and my sister's cats. I've got 6 cats now because I promised I'd look after Hopi, my sister's cat, when she died. And I've got my rooster right hand. And can you imagine how worried I am about the fact that I'm not going to be able to afford probably to find somewhere where we can all be, my little animals and I. And I'm really, really worried about that because nobody's going to love my little fellows like I do. If you see what I know that sounds silly, but it's true. And frankly, they're all I've got left. That's all I've got.
Go and feed your pets. Have a break.
Yeah.
And,
Okay, I'll be back in a bit.
okie dokie. Thank you, Anne.
Bye. Bye.
Something, Darren, isn't it?
It's mind-blowing, John, and you're quite right. Absolutely makes you, it stirs up some motivation, for want of a better word, you know. I mean, it's incredible.
People have to stand up with each other. You know what I mean? We all have to stand up with each other and protect each other. It's the only way around it because this is what they're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, and we can't let this woman go through the latter years of her life the way this is. We have something simply has to happen, and I believe that this is the start this evening of that action, because I defy anyone to listen to that and not want to help.
Yeah.
To hear the story, to hear what's going on, and to not actually take it in and take anything from it is quite shocking. Yeah.
A total tack up. I mean, there's been created this debt slave system. It's got no feeling, no empathy. We need to change. We need to be. We are the only people who will be the change. We need to come together and become the change. It's as simple as that. Because we can't leave this. We can't leave this. Our elders be treated in this manner, and our children, and eventually ourselves. Because we've all been conned. We all got. If you got their head in the sand, they're watching EastEnders now and all that kind of caper. All the rest of the commercial crap. Meanwhile, in Anglesey, we've got Anne worrying herself to death, having to go through what she's gone through.
Yeah.
Wake up! People need to wake up now. I mean, this needs to end. But to more on the positive, would like to help Anne out, and I know I want to. And
that's it. We like the Facebook groups are and things. Anyone hearing this story on any single Facebook group that's out there, I'm sure would want to help her out, wouldn't they?
Yeah. This is of course. I mean,
and wider afield as well, but just.
Well, we're going over to this is going out everywhere, basically, over the web tonight. I mean, it's going to America, and I see there's a couple of listeners over there now. But yeah, we'll get this over onto YouTube. By the way, if anyone would like to follow up and give any suggestions or what we can do to help Anne out, you can find us on our Facebook page, and which is the Common Law Court of Wales. We also got a YouTube channel where you can catch up with any and all of the previous episodes that we've been able to broadcast over the last couple of weeks and months, and bring yourself up to speed that way. But we invite all help is needed at the moment, and it's very much all hands on deck, gentlemen, isn't it?
Definitely. Can I just add there as well, please, Darren?
Yeah.
Anyone local to Anglesey, if they are to search on Facebook for Anglesey 61, Lawful Rebellion Stroke Awareness Group, then they'll find both myself and John and our little group that's local to Anglesey.
Yeah. This Lawful Rebellion thing, I'm not up to speed with that, Dan. I believe you are, for the listeners, what is it that all about? I believe it's something to do with the Magna Carta or something, isn't it?
Well, yes, I mean, we interviewed David Robson on this matter, who does a wonderful job promoting Article 61. Also, Lazarus Rayburn is very knowledgeable historian. But yes, it goes back to Magna Carta, 1215, and yeah, it's basically when a government is no longer representative of the people, then there's mechanisms within law that allow the people to get the reins back, if you like. To invoke these mechanisms, you need to prove that the government is no longer representative of the people, which, I mean, that's not too hard these days when you consider that it's just a corporation which is running in bankruptcy, and the only assets within it are the people within it. This is how we get taxed, and this is how everything is going from the public hands into the private hands through basically asset stripping. So we know who the system represents, who the courts represents. We know that the courts themselves are totally corrupt institutes of corporations. I mean, so as far as Magna Carta and Article 61, it becomes your duty to go to do lawful rebellion, which is to not comply with this rotten system one little bit. Now, the people have always had the power to do this. I mean, even from Magna Carta 1215, although a lot of the things have been struck off it, there are certain things still within on the books, and one of those things, of course, is the right to be tried by a jury of your peers. Now, let's look at Anne's case here. She's been to several courts, but they're not courts, they're corporations. There's been no jury involved in any part of it. It's just been a corporate stitch-up by a psychopathic group of big hard boys who think they can boss our elderly around, our elderly women about.
Are these known as administrative courts, are they, Darren?
Well, I mean, it depends which way they stitched that up, but they're certainly not they're not a common law court in any way. I mean, one of the things in the Magna Carta and the Bill of Rights and other documents is the right not to have any fines or any imprisonment without being tried by your peers. Now, Anne's been robbed, and the only jury or the only time the people are hearing about it is here and now.
Yeah.
She's been.
Well, I mean, it's definitely contributed to the death, hasn't it, Darren?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's sickening. But the principle of lawful rebellion is it becomes your duty. Once any man or woman realizes that this government is no longer a utility of the people, but it's a runaway corporation of lying thieves representing private interests of international bankers. I mean, once you realize the big picture, then it is your duty not to comply in any way you can. It becomes your duty not to comply.
It's quite scary as well, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is... Yeah, well, indeed, but the essence of lawful rebellion, in my opinion, is that you're duty bound not, to rebel.
That's right, yeah.
I mean...
And there's 25 barons that have done this, put this into force, haven't they, Darren?
Yes, I mean, it's not my speciality. We did do an episode with David Robson, who are fully knowledgeable very well up to date. I'm not sure the amount of barons and the finer details of it, but yes, that sounds right, John. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've heard of Patrick Cullinan?
Yes, we've also done an interview with Patrick that can be found on our YouTube channel, and
he's quite an interesting guy. He knows what he's talking about.
Well, he's spot on. These Zionist bankers, it can be proved that they funded every side of every war. They manipulated people against people call it red team versus blue team, you know. Yeah.
Hello?
It sounds like somebody's having some feedback there. We all right? There we are. It's gone now. How are you feeling, Anne?
Yeah, I'm okay. I got my little 7 in, and
good.
I had a quick sip of tea. I was sneaky when I had a sip of tea.
Oh, why not? Yeah, we were just discussing. Listen, we got 15 minutes left on the show. It's been an honour actually to talk with such a brave and strong lady as yourself, Anne.
I'm not, you know. I'm not.
You have. I mean,
I'm just someone who's kind of like muddled every day, trying my best to cope with all the things. I think I'm going to be really rude here. All the shit that's been thrown at me. It's kind of like, oh God, which flannel will I use next? It's been awful.
Well,
I tell you what I do find interesting, and at the same time I don't understand. I tried the reading of it, but I can't apply it. I don't know how to. I think I'm not either strong enough or clever enough. I'm not sure which. And that's the practical lawful rebellion bit. I would love to be able to stand up and be strong and say the right things to them all, but I don't know what to say, and then I get nervous, and that's it. I give up.
Yeah, I think, Mark, you know a little bit. You were talking about that lawful rebellion, wasn't you?
Yeah, well, I've studied it for quite a while now, for about the last 12 months, and it's something that I'm about now to pledge my own to. I'm in a position now where I understand it fully. I've explained, as I said to yourself beforehand, I can sit you through and talk you through the whole process.
Well, I've done this. Sorry, I've done this thing about sending your oath off.
Yeah, you sent your oath off, but after that,
I didn't know what to do. I couldn't understand how I implemented it myself.
Yeah, it's about anybody who makes claims upon you. You have to send them a notice asking them to prove their points within the law, within the jurisdiction under Article 61.
That's when I got them on me.
Yeah, as I said to you before, I can take you through the notices and the different notices that you have to send as and when. But there is a process I follow myself. I follow David Robinson's process from Practical Lawful Dissent, and all his process is all there in the file. And that's a Facebook group, which I strongly suggest to anybody that is listening, if they're not already a member, to search it out and join that group.
Absolutely. If you're having problems and you really feel quite desperate, then first of all, join the group. And secondly, ask questions, because somebody will know an answer that might be useful, and they probably will know one that is useful.
Yeah.
Indeed.
But also on that group as well, read the files. There's a hell of a lot of information that you have from the files within the group.
The thing I found, Mark, the thing I found the hardest was there are a lot of us reading, and we're really down and really low, and I'm an educated person, but I cannot sit and I can read it and then my brain doesn't take it in. The stress is so bad, you just can't cope.
Sometimes you need a simple layman term, don't you? And it's not available. Yeah.
It's not right, is it? It's as simple as that. I'm struggling for words, really, to convey my feelings. But yeah, I'm sure that you're going to get a lot of support from when people hear what you've gone through, Anne, and I think we'll be okay.
Dan.
Yes.
Over the years that I know, I've watched all the things that go on in this country, and I used to, when I was young, being born during at the end of the war. I used to get quite peaky about my parents and other people like them who were saying things like, we fought a war for people in this country to be free and to have better lives. And I used to think, well, fighting wars doesn't necessarily do that. Why do they always go on about it? But I have to say now, looking back at all that has happened to my family in its entirety, My poor parents did go to war for this bloody country. My father came from Canada to do so, to help protect the people of this country from being annihilated in the most awful way. And what do the people of this country do? They go and ruin their own country and us with it. That's what's going on. It's just horrendous what's happening to the people of Britain, and it's being done by the people of Britain, if you see what I mean.
Well, I mean, they're certainly complicit in far as just going along with the con. I mean, there's a max or gross negligence.
Negligence?
Is the equivalent of fraud. And the people of this country have been negligent. And what they've allowed to happen is private banks has come in and basically bought the system and has turned it on the people, as depicted in your horrific story.
And also something else, they've allowed the gap between the very, very rich and the very, very poor to get so wide that there is no comparison in terms of life. In fact, life doesn't even exist for some people in this country anymore. And it's not just the odd one person living on the street. It's a jolly great huge pile of people, and it's getting much, much worse. I mean, look here on Anglesey. How often before in the past did we see food banks and homeless people? And well, we didn't. In the 70s, there was nothing like that. You didn't need it. And look at it now. It's an absolute nightmare. And this is a big rural area. We're not talking, cities with millions of people to feed or something. We're talking a rural area. And if it's showing up here, then it's worse in other places.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you've got the food banks have never been busier. You're not even allowed to feed the homeless in some places.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so much. This so-called austerity has caused so much pain for the normal people that I think the awareness now is at a tipping edge. I mean, it can't get much worse.
And then on top of that, I've noticed all this business with paedophilia and the fact that it is not being dealt with. In fact, again, it is being covered up. What the hell is the matter with people in this country that they can't stand up like their parents and grandparents did for something that is right in life? Have they all become gutless nowadays? Have they no honour left? That neither the elderly have any respect given to them. Children are not cared about. They aren't able to play freely anymore. This country has just got to pull itself together, and you have jolly well got to start realising that you need to be proud of your country and proud of your people in order to have. And also, and that's another point, and also the most important thing of all is that a society is only ever as strong as its weakest link. And at the moment, Britain is a very, very weak country because the people have made it that way.
It's all to do with control, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's taking control of us all.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah.
It's divide and conquer. I'm all right, Jack, but you're not. Who cares? If we divide it like that and we keep doing it, you're sponging off the state. Montgomery was busy saying you should make all your claims because it's your right to pay for it. This is going back into the early 60s when he was on TV doing that, and I can remember that. And yet now it's you're a sponger. It's a kind of, things aren't quite what we wanted them to be, but we want to make the divide even bigger. Let's use everybody. Have you not noticed every excuse? One parent families are a problem, and it's the elderly are a problem. Then it's, I don't know, people sponging from various walks of life. It doesn't matter what. Then the homeless are a problem, but they never actually say the a problem. They never actually say the elite of this country are a problem. Nobody says, hey, come on, you've got it the wrong way around, because they don't want to know. And the people let it happen.
Well, yes, I mean, it's facilitated through the media and other mediums, the newspaper and all these things that are controlled by the establishment. Yeah, you've got people.
Well, yes, sorry, I was going to say, unfortunately, the media are, what's it called? They kowtow to the establishment, but there's another word for it, and I can't think of it offhand. Lapdogs.
Yeah, they bought and paid for. Bought and paid for, quite easily provable and researchable if you follow the money. I think it's only one or two companies who own the majority of all types of media. It does help facilitate, the programming that's on. I mean, what Anne just said there is quite correct. We've got one, these programs with people on dole, and they demonise them. It's just all.
Turning people against each other, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know what I mean, Darren?
Yeah.
It's a nasty, violent diet of, brainwashing, really. Well, that's exactly what it is. It's a slow brainwash that gets to turn everyone's senses off. They're caught in a debt-slave system. They've got to work 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, or even more. And
the very people who are enforcing, in inverted commas, these things have no idea how to do that kind of work themselves because they're lazy. That's why they're enforcing it, because they want other people to do it, because you've got to be their servants and slaves.
That's right. And again, it's facilitated in the curriculum that the children are taught in school today. I mean, you can't call it an education. It's absolute trash what they taught in our schools. You go back to the classical way of teaching, or even I tell you what's a shocker. There's an online test for I think it's dated 1870, and the test is for 8-year-old children. It's online. If you just type in test for 8-year-old children 1870, you'll find it. After you found it, try and answer any of the questions on it. Absolutely incredible. The standard of education then to now is just light years. We think we've progressed. We have not progressed 1 inch. We've gone back 200 years, not forward. I mean, just have a look at the questions on that online thing. They talked about
what is the colour of blood.
They talked about how money is created, how politics works, and it's fascinating. But at the same time, it highlights perfectly how the education system, by design, has totally given the majority of people an inability to think and work things out for themselves. You just look at you don't have to do much to get the normal man in the street to vote. I mean, in America, it's even worse. When Obama was doing his election, he went down to some place and he was giving out mobile phones. And there's a famous bit of footage. I'm voting for Obama. He gave me a mobile phone. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
The whole system is designed to dumb people down, isn't it?
Oh, perfectly. And it's been
even in school, as myself, my children, I've got young children in school, and some of the things that they're coming home and telling me about what they're learning in school it's not even the same as what we learned when we were in school.
It's total rubbish. It is. It's
total rubbish. Total. There's a program, I don't know whether people, listeners, anyone who are aware of it, but there's a program within the school now, within Wales, it's called the SMILE program. Now, this is where they get your children to brush their teeth in school. Yeah?
Yeah.
But instead of using a child's toothpaste, they're using adult fluoride toothpaste. Yeah? And the local school to me, where my children go, are actually made to actually swallow the toothpaste instead of spitting it out.
Good grief.
Have they said why?
No, they haven't said why. We use our children from...
Swallow it.
Yeah, just swallow it. Yeah, no spitting it out. No rinse in your mouth. Just you have to swallow it. And I think it's purely a laziness from the school.
Oh no!
It could also be something else, and
it'll be very sinister, Mark. There'll be no doubt. I mean,
the whole fact that they're using the adult toothpaste instead of children is quite serious, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean they got children on drugs now, basically. If you're a bit a bit lively, they put you on. Yeah. I mean,
I'm going to talk about something a bit different in teaching. You know how children have school dinners, and they have them in the primary schools. They have them in their little canteen, and in the comprehensive, they have lots of big chanting. Well, in the old days, not that long ago, teachers would have dinner with the children. Now, as we all know, children learn not only when they're young particularly to play and communication with adults and other children, but they also need to learn to socialise in various settings, one of which is when you're eating, because you're likely to go to, when you're older, restaurants, or maybe go out for dinner parties or whatever it might be with friends. How can you possibly know what to do in such a circumstance if you have never, ever learned how to think? That people have teachers having dinner with children, again, it's important.
We've now got a minute left, right? So I'd like to leave the last words with Anne and the team there. The last minute is yours, guys.
I'll start and say thank you very, very much, anybody and everybody who's listening. I know it's kind of been a bit hard probably listening to my tale of woe, but believe you me, it is horrendous and it is really pretty distressing. And going back to the teaching, I really, really think teachers should be eating with children so children could learn to have discussions, good educational and social discussions over their meals so that they understand that a meal is something you have at the table and not in front of an Xbox.
Exactly, Anne. Keep your eyes open on Facebook for adverts because there's a lot more coming to you.
I'd just like to thank everyone who listened and everybody who's out there. If you've heard Anne's story, please get behind it.
Yeah. Thank you, Darren.
You're welcome, lads.
Thank you very much, Darren.
No, this is just the start, guys. We've got some serious work to do. Thank you all. And thank you as well, Anne. You've been
thank you, Darren. Thank you very, very much.